Hey everybody, and welcome back to Lindsey's Little Library. So I'm here today because it is Thursday, which means it's BookList Thursday. BookList Thursday is something I do with Sarah over at Sarah's Nightstand. We come to you every Thursday with some sort of book thoughts, ideas, recommendations, something bookish related. So today is a super fun one. We are absolutely in the midst of October, in the midst of spooky season, and all of the fall and Halloween stuff. And so we are going to take a look at some Halloween type movies that you may watch and give you some book recommendations that would fit nicely with them. So the first movie I want to talk about is my absolute favorite, must see every single Halloween, is Hocus Pocus. Love the original, love the second movie. I actually had some time with my sisters this last week. We got together, we watched it together. It was just good. It's just a good, it's a lot of nostalgia for me, honestly. But it is kid friendly, in my opinion. It's kid friendly. It's a lighthearted watch with the three Sanderson sisters, with this quest to stop them and the black flame candle and all of the fun stuff. So the book I would pair with that is, of course, a middle grade book. We have The Only Thing Worse Than Witches. This follows Rupert. Rupert, I don't know how old he is, but he is in school. His teacher, Mrs. Frabble-Knacker, smells like mushy bananas and belly button lit and forbids the classmates from talking to each other both in school and out of school. So he is just he's not having it. Not having it at all. And so to kind of shake things up, he answers an advertisement for an apprentice to a upcoming witch. So we have witchling number 2 is what she's referred to as, is having a hard time passing her examinations. And so she hires Rupert to help her out. She's desperate to pass them to become a full-fledged witch. And of course, some things go awry. It is a sweet book. I read this with Emily a couple of years ago. I thought it was awesome. Like I said, we're super sweet book. So The Only Thing Worse Than Witches by Lauren McGathiner. There you go. So speaking of nostalgia and Halloween movies, the next movie I would talk about is Scream. This is one that I watched probably on repeat, back in the day. So I feel like it definitely has some suspense to it, yet kind of maybe a little ridiculous at times, maybe a little predictable at times. So the book that came to mind was a Stephanie Perkins book, The Woods Are Always Watching. It's a pretty quick one. It definitely has some suspense to it. So we have best friends. We have Nina and Josie. They are kind of outsiders within high school, but became really, really good friends. They're now in college and they're 2,000 miles apart. And so they are missing that connection and that friendship. So they decide to come back together for one last chance, kind of on a 3-day hike deep into the woods of a national forest. So they're trying to kind of take this last time together before again they separate, 2,000 miles apart, to just enjoy their friendship. Well, little do they know that their hike is going to be disrupted, not only by a little bit of drama between the two of them, but also by some spooky, creepy, crazy things that happen. So Woods Are Always Watching, somewhat predictable, a little bit. Yeah, definitely suspenseful. I really enjoyed reading it. So that's my next one. I'll look at my notes. Next one I want to talk about. Okay, so then you have your typical gory horror type movie. So what I thought of right away was Saw, which I've never actually watched that movie or any of the other movies. But that's what comes to mind when I'm thinking of that movie. So if you're okay with that, more horror-driven, body horror-driven movies, I think you would really enjoy The September House. This is by Carissa Orlando. This just came out. And it's fantastic. So we have our main character, I'm pretty sure her name's Margaret, and we find that she's living in this house. Beautiful old Victorian house, just 3 stories of gorgeous place to live. It just comes with some extra things like ghosts and walls that bleed and things that go bump in the night and so on and so forth. So we follow Margaret as she is kind of in a tongue-in-cheek kind of way explaining how she can live in a house like that. Basically, there's just rules you have to follow, and if you follow them, it's fine. So we learn about that. We learn about her daughter. We learn about her relationship with her husband, and it goes through this whole mystery of what the heck is going on with this house. It is fantastic. I highly recommend it. I loved it. Next movie, if you like Pet Sematary, read Pet Sematary. I did it, you guys. I read the book, and it was great. It follows Dr. Lewis Creed as he takes his new job, moves his entire family to this like idyllic little small town of Ludlow, Maine. He gets a bit of a warning about what's behind his house, and which would be the pet cemetery. There's a lot of warnings that Lewis is faced with, both real and maybe from his nightmares, that he shouldn't go beyond the borders of this little pet cemetery graveyard. And you can imagine what happens. But if you really liked the movie, I would say read the book because it was fantastic. It's fantastic. And then the last movie I want to talk about is The Craft. Coven of Witches. Of course, I need to talk with witchy books. But The Wicked Deep. Not necessarily a coven of witches, but definitely witchy vibes. So it follows the Swan sisters. They live in Sparrow, Oregon. It's 1822. They are interesting. So we have Marguerite, the oldest. We have Aurora as the middle sister, and Hazel's the youngest. Each of them beautiful in their own way, each of them misunderstood in their own way. A year later, the townspeople, after living with the Swan sisters, they execute them for witchcraft. And by doing this, they place a curse on the town of Sparrow that has never been broken until now. And basically this curse is like every Halloween, every October, basically there needs to be some sort of sacrifice. So it is YA. It reads pretty quick. I'm not a huge YA reader, but I really did love this book. And then of course, can we just take a moment? It's just gorgeous. One of my favorite like naked hardback books of all time. So Wicked Deep, if you enjoy The Craft. I do have an honorable mention if you like Hocus Pocus and you don't necessarily want to go down the middle grade book. I'd say The Witches of Moonshine Manor by Bianca Maris would be my other suggestion. If you like Hocus Pocus, read this book. We have 5 witches in their 80s attempting to save their house from being foreclosed on, basically, or being not condemned. Yeah, they're behind foreclosed because they're behind their mortgage payments. They team up with Queenie's one of the witches. They team up with Persephone, which I love that name, who is a feisty TikToker and is going to use social media to help her neighborhood coven of witches save their house. So I thought it was cute. I really enjoyed it. Definitely a different vibe for Bianca to read or to write, but honorable mention for you today. So those are my 5. If you like these movies, read these books. If you have any other suggestions, leave them below. Otherwise, head over to Sarah's channel, see what she has for us today. And yeah, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and we'll see you next time. Bye.